Triple H once famously said,
"Somebody like you doesn't get to be a world champion."
You can't talk about Triple H burials without starting with Booker T at WrestleMania 19. Even if you never saw the match live, you've heard about this feud. The story is simple. Booker T, ex-WCW guy, charismatic, over, former world champion, finally getting a shot at the big belt on the biggest show of the year. Simple babyface versus heel story. Easy, right? But WWE didn't just go with hungry challenger versus arrogant champion. They went somewhere way uglier. In the build-up, Triple H leans hard into class and race.
"You're here to make people like me laugh."
It wasn't subtle, it wasn't coded, it was nasty. And all of that is fine if the story ends with Booker T shutting him the hell up. That's the point of telling that kind of story. The jerk says the worst thing possible, the babyface overcomes it, the crowd explodes, everyone goes home feeling like justice was served. That's not what happened. The match itself? Pretty good. Booker holds his own. The crowd's with him, and there's a moment where he hits the scissors kick, and you can feel people ready to see the 3 count. Instead, we get pedigree. Long, slow, almost disrespectful crawl to the cover. Triple H cuts him down in the most boring way possible and walks out still world champion. And this is where the burial feeling really kicks in. It's not just that Booker lost, it's that after all that demeaning buildup, he lost clean, and then just drifted away from the main event scene. No rematch, no redemption arc, no Booker T finally does it moment. He eventually gets his flowers as King Booker years later, but that Mania feud, that was his chance to become a true top guy in WWE's world. And instead, it's remembered as one of the ugliest, "we're just not going with you" decisions of that entire era. Was that 100% Triple H's call? We weren't in the room. But when your character cuts promos like that and you still win, it's hard not to feel like that shovel hit pretty deep. Now let's talk about Rob Van Dam, the guy who should have been a license to print money in the early 2000s. RVD comes in during the Invasion era and immediately becomes one of the most popular guys on the roster. He's unique, he's cool. He feels fresh in a company full of jacked dudes in black trunks. ECW fans already love him. WWE fans catch on fast. He's getting those crazy RVD chants every single show. If you were building a brand new world champion in 2002, Rob Van Dam is right there. Instead, his story keeps running into one roadblock: Triple H's reign of terror on Raw. Unforgiven 2002. RVD versus Triple H. It's the perfect time to pull the trigger. New belt, new era, new face on top. Instead, we get RVD losing, Flair interference, Triple H standing tall again. Okay, fine. They can run it back, they can slow burn it, but they never really do. There's another infamous moment in the first Elimination Chamber match where RVD lands a big 5-star frog splash and accidentally crushes Triple H's throat with his knee. After that, the whole aura around their dynamic changes. Again, we're not backstage, we're not hearing the conversations, but on TV, you can literally watch RVD slowly slide back down the card, back into the cool mid-carder slot. Every time he gets close to that top level against Triple H, the belt never actually moves. By the time RVD finally wins a world title years later, it's on the ECW Revival brand, surrounded by too much chaos.
He's playing with them right now.
And immediately ends with him getting stripped after the arrest. But that early window, 2001, 2002, 2003, that was when he should have been a genuine alternative top guy to Triple H. Instead, he ends up being one of the defining what-if names of that era. And when people say Triple H buried RVD, they're really talking about all the times the company could have made Van Dam the guy, and consistently chose Hunter instead. Then there's Goldberg. And this one is wild because on paper, nobody should have been able to bury this guy. In WCW, Goldberg is the most dominant monster they've ever had. 100-0, or whatever the number ended up being. Steamrolling people. Insane aura. Short matches, huge pops.
When he picks him up, he's got him up!
He's not a 5-star match machine, but he doesn't need to be. He's a walking, breathing cheat code for creating hype. So when he comes into WWE in 2003, you'd think it's a layup.
You're next! What? Oh, that's the
He should come in, tear people apart, win the big belt, leave wreckage behind him. Instead, he runs into Evolution, and more specifically, into Triple H's world title run. The story they go with is basically, can the old WCW guy hang in the real big leagues? Lots of talking, lots of stalling, and when they finally get in the ring, the first big title match at SummerSlam 2003 ends with Triple H keeping the belt.
Oh my God, sir! You believe what we're seeing?
Thanks to interference.
Look at this! Just slap him!
Goldberg doesn't smash through him. He doesn't send a message. He doesn't feel like this unstoppable meteor. He just feels like another challenger in Hunter's long line of, I beat him, I beat him, I beat him. Yeah, Goldberg eventually wins the title later, but the damage is kind of done. The unstoppable monster aura is gone. The mystique is gone. He's just a guy. It's not that Triple H refused to ever lose to Goldberg, but the way they structured that whole feud took a guy who should have felt like an event every time he wrestled and made him feel like just another dude Triple H had to overcome. That's the burial, right there. Not one loss, not one match, but taking a once-in-a-generation act and making him feel normal. Let's hit a quick one. Scott Steiner. This one is more of a shared disaster. Steiner shows up in WWE in late 2002 with a ton of hype. Jacked to the moon, known for insane promos, WCW star. People are at least curious. WWE throws him straight into a world title feud with Triple H. On paper, this is a big deal, but once the bell rings, you can tell immediately it's not working. Steiner is blown up, stiff and rusty. Triple H is trying, but the matches just don't click. The Rumble 2003 match is rough. The rematch at No Way Out is somehow worse. Instead of adjusting, pulling back, or rebuilding Steiner differently, the story they tell is, yeah, he can't hang at this level. Triple H wins.
He remains, yes! Yes! Triple H did!
Steiner disappears into mid-card nothingness and is gone not long after. Could he still go at that point? Honestly, no, not like he used to.
Good Lord, where's my nose? Tell him! Run, Nate! Not that way!
But there's also no attempt to protect him, to hide his weaknesses, or to salvage the aura that made him a star somewhere else. He comes in as the next big challenger to Triple H, and leaves as LL. Remember how bad those matches were. It's not a burial in the sense of he was red hot and Triple H cut him down. It's more like they exposed him, Hunter walked out fine, and Steiner's WWE run died right there. Now we gotta talk about the one that still fires people up in long CM Punk interviews, Triple H versus CM Punk in 2011. Punk is nuclear that summer. He drops the pipe bomb, blurs every line between reality and storyline.
I apologize, you son of a...
Beats Cena in Chicago and walks out with the WWE title. For a few weeks, he feels like the closest thing we've had to Austin in years.
You want a shot of whiskey?
What?
Vodka?
What?
Anything?
What?
He's the guy calling out the system, calling out Vince, calling out the way WWE is run. And then, kind of out of nowhere, the story shifts from Punk versus The Machine to Punk versus Kevin Nash and Triple H.
Oh my God, who the hell? Who the hell is that?
Instead of Punk taking his rebellion all the way to the top, to the very heart of WWE's creative and business structure, he gets sidetracked into a feud about text messages, sledgehammers, and did Nash really send that? The match at Night of Champions is Punk versus Triple H.
Oh man!
Here we go!
If there was ever a time to have Hunter take a loss, sell the idea that Punk is the future, and embrace the chaos, it was right there. Instead, Triple H wins. Not a long title run, not via screwjob. He just beats Punk, and Punk doesn't die. He's too good for that. He still goes on to have a long title run, to put on bangers, to become one of the best ever. But that feeling that he was about to be the guy who broke the system, that story never fully recovers. When Punk later says in shoots, "You don't see money in me like you see in your buddies, in your gym, in your mirror," that match is exactly what he's talking about. Is that one loss a burial? Maybe not in the traditional "you never recovered" sense, but it was absolutely a moment where Triple H and WWE could have sent a message about a new era, and instead sent the message that the old era still holds the leash. And then, of course, there's Sting at WrestleMania 31. If you want one match that sums up WWE's obsession with winning the war 1,000 years after it actually ended, it's this one. Sting is the one guy who never came over during the invasion. For years, he stays away from WWE. He's the ghost of WCW, the last holdout, the one guy Vince never got to put under his banner. So when he finally shows up in WWE in 2014, it feels massive. You've got one shot to do this right. You could do Sting versus Undertaker, Sting versus some modern guy who grew up watching him, a respectful last ride type story. Instead, they go, let's have him wrestle Triple H in a WWE versus WCW nostalgia match, and let's also have Triple H win. The match itself is fun in a ridiculous, overbooked way. DX runs in. The NWO shows up.
We got DX out here. We got Triple H. We got Sting. We got NWO.
Old guys hitting their finishers, crowd losing their minds. It's a nostalgia overload. But when the dust settles, the story they chose is crystal clear. WWE greater than WCW. Triple H gets the win, and then shakes his hand after, like, no hard feelings, kid. For a lot of fans, that was it. Sting's first WWE match, on the biggest stage, after decades of what if, and the dude loses to the embodiment of WWE's "we beat you" mentality. That's not just a burial of Sting the character, that's a burial of everything he represented. And you can absolutely argue, Sting should have won that. He didn't need a long run, he just needed that one big "you can't erase me" moment. Instead, he becomes another trophy on Triple H's wall. So, is Triple H just this cartoon villain running around with a shovel? Not really. He did put people over. Batista gets made at his expense in 2005. Cena beats him in back-to-back WrestleManias. Daniel Bryan taps him out at WrestleMania 30, which sets up one of the greatest main events ever. Later on, NXT-era Hunter is the guy giving indie darlings the platform WWE never used to. The story is not Triple H never lost and ruined everyone. The story is, in a certain era when he was the top guy and had a lot of political stroke, if your rise conflicted with his spot, you were fighting the booking and the game. Booker T, RVD Goldberg, Punk, Sting, all very different careers, all very different levels of success. But they have one thing in common. They each had a window where they were hot enough to be the guy. And when they ran into Triple H at the wrong time, that window quietly closed. Sometimes it was bad match structure. Sometimes it was a baffling finish. Sometimes it was an ego thing. Sometimes it was just the company trusting the devil they knew over the risk they didn't. But from the outside, watching it as fans, it all felt the same. Man, they just buried him. And that's why the golden shovel meme won't die. Because underneath the jokes, there's a real pattern of missed opportunities and stalled careers that all seem to happen in the shadow of the same guy. The funniest part? Triple H is now the one in charge of creative for an entire generation of wrestlers who grew up watching all of this happen. And that raises a big question. If the man once accused of burying wrestlers is now holding the pen, what happens when creative becomes the thing that ruins, revives, or completely rewrites people's careers? Because Triple H's shovel was one man's power. The real long-term damage in WWE doesn't come from one guy protecting his spot. It comes from the machine, the stop-start pushes, the 50-50 booking, the "we're all in on this guy," until they randomly aren't. For every Booker T or RVD that ran into Triple H, there are 10 other names who never even got that far, because creative had no clue what to do with them. So if you really want to see where careers go to die, check this video next and see how WWE creative have destroyed these careers.